All right, good morning. It's 8:53 on a Thursday, and there's a lot of stuff to do today, mostly in terms of reorganizing my life and getting back on track and starting some new projects. But first, we gotta go make some coffee. Alright, coffee has been prepared, which means you can actually start talking about what today is going to consist of. And if you remember from last video, I built and launched a side project and tried to market it and get some users, but it turns out nobody was really willing to pay for it. I asked a lot of users after I posted the video, and nobody really felt the vibe, which means I need to come up with a new side project, which is one of my highest priorities for tasks today. But other than that, first I have to quickly edit a TikTok that I have to post tomorrow, and then we can get on to working and figuring out a new side project idea to work on. Alright, TikTok edited, which means it's coding time, and I think I've come up with a pretty decent side project idea. The idea is actually pretty simple. There's a lot of content that I consume on the internet that comes from like subreddits or different Twitter accounts, but I don't want to spend a lot of hours on the internet every day, so I want to get like a summary of everything that I missed in the past 24 hours into my inbox. So basically what we're going to do is write a scraper that gets all the recent tweets from accounts that I like, from subreddits that I follow, and then summarizes that with GPT, and then sends me an email every 24 hours along with like a podcast version of that email in case I don't want to read it. Think of it as a personalized AI newsletter based on sources that you like. Now, this product already exists, and I'm not going to really be trying to compete and make this a startup or anything. This is just a fun side project that I think I'm going to use a ton. If you've been stalking my GitHub account, you know I've done a version of this in the past where I let you pick a source type, Twitter or Reddit, input the source's name, and then use GPT-4 or GPT-3 to summarize it. But I'm not a big fan of the way that this project turned out. It's not the best on functionality in the back end, and I don't really want it to have to manually do the summary. I want it to automate and run every 24 hours and send me what I need. But now it's time to think of the architecture of this system, right? So we need two parts, obviously, the front end and the back end. What happens on the front end? Well, I want to be able to input sources that I would like the back end to pull from, and that's it. Nothing else needs to happen on the front end. Everything else is going to happen on the back end. On the back end, we're going to be pulling from these sources. We're going to be summarizing it via the GPT API or maybe a model that I deploy elsewhere. And then we're also going to be generating the podcast audio. All of this will then be combined into an email and then emailed to me every 24 hours. So some sort of a cron job on a server running somewhere. Backend will probably be deployed as a Docker container on something like DigitalOcean or Fly.io or Railway. And then the front end, I'm probably just going to make another Next.js app deployed on Vercel really quick, really easy. And I think it's time to get started on working. So some decent amount of progress has been made. It turns out the solution I was using to scrape RSS feeds for Twitter in the past wasn't working anymore, so I had to find a new one, but I did, wrote a few lines of code, and now we actually are able to get Twitter feed data just by running the Python script. So for example, here is mine. On the script, you get the text. If there are images, they'll be here. If there are URLs mentioned, they'll be there. And it's just really easy to get all the information that you need for your Twitter feeds. How do we actually concatenate all of this into a summary? Well, obviously you have the text part, which you can just pass into GPT-4 or any large language model. Other than that, the images I'll also pass into GPT-4 Vision, or I'll find like a local vision large language model that I can use to interpret what's in the image and then use that and incorporate that into my summaries. Of course, tweets are actually not that long, so it's not going to be really hard to make a summary. In fact, we can maybe just concatenate all of the tweets together and just send that as is without having to do any sort of summary thing, except for the podcast part, which we will need to summarize because you can't see images in an audio podcast. As for Reddit just provides RSS feeds natively for most of its subreddits, which is what I'll use, and then we'll concatenate all of this, make the backend look really nice in the summary, and then quickly spin up a front end. But in the meantime, I have to have lunch. Something I've realized recently, or really taken to heart recently, is that life is really only fun when you're actually making things or creating things, no matter how stupid or simple they are. Because this project is really easy once you actually have the setup of the URLs that you're scraping from. Other than that, it's fun, and it's also useful for me. If I can expand this to do research for me, for content, for TikToks or shorts, then it becomes a useful project, and that's what it's all about. People ask me for side project ideas all the time, and to them I say, think of problems that you have in your own life, any problem, no matter how small it seems. And if you think you can solve it with a piece of software, then build that piece of software. If that piece of software already exists, then try to re-implement it yourself, because you'll have a lot of fun doing it and you'll learn a lot. Okay, the summarizer works. It's really, really easy. It's just a one-sentence prompt to GPT-4 along with the data that we've collected, and then we get our summary back. Really simple. Next steps are also pretty simple. They just involve using the GPT Vision API for the images that are in our JSON files, adding text to speech, and then we're basically done after we add the front end. But I don't want to really work on that right now. Instead, what I want to do is look at other things that I have to do, maybe plan out some content, but I also have been having some blog posts that I wanted to write, and maybe I'll do that right now as well. Actually, I don't want to do any of that crap. I just want to talk about something else right now that's kind of unrelated. Basically, I've been having some trouble with mental clarity recently, where I wake up and I'm like, I don't really know what to work on, I don't really know what to do. But what's actually helped me a ton is just writing stuff out on paper. Instead of having to type out like a journal entry in Obsidian or whatever, just taking a piece of paper and a pencil and sitting down and writing what I'm thinking about so that I can gain some mental clarity. And that's helped me a lot for a lot of different ideas. And if you can't tell, what I'm doing right now is spitballing an essay that I think I want to write and put up on my blog. Go to siddubey.com and then subscribe to my newsletter as well. But what I'm saying is, when you're struggling to try and gain some productivity in your life, or to organize your life, or figure out what you want to work on, the only thing that you can do is write. And it helps kind of to also talk to yourself, but it's a little bit more embarrassing to talk to yourself when you don't have a camera pointed at you. Right now I have a camera pointed at me, so talking to myself, I'm not really talking to myself, I'm talking to you. But if you feel embarrassed to do that and you're like, oh, that's weird, writing to yourself is as good of a thing as you can do. Think about what you want to work on. For me, right now, I want to make videos. And unfortunately, I tried making a video earlier this week where I would have made like an AI clone of myself using large language models and data that I pulled from my iMessages, but that didn't really end up working out well this week, so I'm gonna have to try again later. And that made me mad, and that ruined my mood, and it just made me unable to get things done. So I sat down, I wrote to myself, I said, what types of videos do I like to make? And I like vlogging. And I really like talking, and I think that talking to the camera is helpful for some of you, and it's helpful for me, just what I'm doing. So I'm like, maybe I should start a podcast soon, and I think I will, but I don't really have any topics or guests or ideas for format in mind yet. And this type of yapping, this type of writing, brings you a lot of mental clarity, and it gives you ideas, it gives you things to work on. And like I mentioned earlier, the only real way that you can have a lot of fun in life is if you work. And not necessarily work at like a dead-end job or something that you don't enjoy. It's if you make something that you like. Make art, make programs, make videos, make food, make relationships with people. That's the only way that you can have fun. And really the genesis for all of that comes from writing. And I haven't been writing a lot, but once I've started to do this over the last few days, it's helped my mood a ton, so let's talk about it. Why I said let's talk about it when we just spent 2.5 minutes talking about it. I might genuinely be stupid because I almost got baited into falling for this tweet. Google is sunsetting Gmail. I don't know why I believed it. I guess it makes sense. Google shuts down so many products. Trivia. I don't know if we're gonna get spots actually. Avi, what do you think?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
If we don't get spots, it's its fault.
I blame Sid.
It's my fault?
Yeah.
It probably is actually.
80% chance that we are, what socket?
Cooked.
Alright, round one is done. Out of a possible 22 points, we have 16. Because we missed the first question because we weren't listening, I think we made a generational fumble on the bonus, which is Socket's fault.
right, this is going to be a very abrupt end and a very bright end, holy crap. But we messed up at trivia. We actually didn't really do too well. We were pretty confident after the first half, but then we completely fumbled in the second half and got like 13th, I think, out of 21 teams. So very poor performance, but that's all for today. I have a flight to catch in 10 hours. So good night to everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.